So,
Hey.
hi, Teja.
Yay.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Um, it's really a special moment for me to have worked with you um, in my for my own transportation, for my own transformation. We were just talking about our cars before, flat
Yeah,
tires. So that's where
yeah,
that came from. But I'm going to introduce you the way I know you, and then
absolutely.
you can speak
Yeah,
about yourself as well.
absolutely.
So. Taya Wood. She's the founder of the Soul Calling Academy and Soul Calling podcast and so many things. Um, she's an amazing channel of ascended masters, guides, and other beings of light. Um, she's a medium, a healer, an enlightened spiritual teacher, and an empowerment mentor.
Oh,
So for you, um, you're many more things, but that's who you are to me and why I have you here because the work that you do,
mm.
um, shepherding people into their own empowerment so they can transform their lives. I've experienced it working with you, so I wanted to share you with everyone.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. This is so wonderful. And it's also so wonderful. I work with quite a lot of people, and I'm always so excited when I see amazing individuals like yourself creating, their own things and really going out there into the world because this is so needed. So, yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you,
Yes.
Roberta.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Um, yeah, what I, it's like you help me in certain ways, and I use certain tools to empower myself to transform. And then I was just like, yes, liberation, I've transformed. And then I'm like, wait a second, this is an ongoing process.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's a big
so
journey.
it,
Transformation is really a big journey. I was just having a chat with my partner earlier, and we were talking about, how long it takes in life. We come into this life and, we think we start from scratch. Yeah, there's so much karmic stuff and so many soul lessons we need to work through. And so it takes so much time in our lives that, you think you're like, okay, I'm over that challenge. It's going to be fine now. And then another thing, another thing. And it's really a journey of empowerment. And it takes decades, decades of hard work before you get to that place where you can say, you know what? I think this feels good now. I think it's all right. Like, I think I've done most of it. Now I can be very creative. So, yeah,
yes, yes,
never
yes,
ending
yes, yes.
journey.
Yeah,
Never ending journey.
that's how I felt. That's how I feel. You know,
Mm,
um, I keep learning, I keep growing, I keep moving, and I feel like the parts of my life where I felt stuck was actually me staying in an old pattern
yeah.
for fear, doubt, like whatever, all these reasons, old wounding, um, not believing in myself enough,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. And I feel like that's what stops us. Like we stop ourselves, and it also helps. It like diminishes our vibration, and
Mm,
at some point, if we keep doing this, then you start to lose your health in certain ways.
yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone, majority of people at the moment are feeling this calling to change, to transform, exactly what you were saying. And, however, a lot of people don't understand exactly what goes into an actual transformation, that really, it's not going to be this one training or one mentor or one book or one program that's going to save you. There's nothing out there that's going to save you. Everything that's out there are tools, and somebody might be really skillful at some tools and they can teach you about the tools, but then you have to apply it. And that's exactly what you just said, Roberto. It comes down to then your life and you making a very conscious decision of saying, you know what? I'm not going to stay stuck in this anymore. I'm moving forward, even if I'm afraid, even if I don't know what's around the corner, even if I have all these insecurities. But if something is in my current reality doesn't feel right, then it's definitely not right. So, the topic of transformation, changing, stepping into our power, this is the big topic now. It's really big. We can't access any higher levels of information or higher consciousness if we haven't applied the basics the absolute basics to our day-to-day lives, to our relationships, our careers, our family dynamics. And that's where the healing begins. And I feel like a lot of people are now being called to this path, and I do hope that as many people as possible will respond to this inner calling, and will also have the maturity understanding how much it goes into transforming yourself, that you are the one transforming yourself. There is nobody out there. That's a big thing. Self-responsibility, it's a huge thing at this time, I think.
Yes. I was going to ask you something else, but you just said that. Self-responsibility. No, it's fine. After I'll get to that. But like self-responsibility. So I want you to talk about like choice and free will. It's like we have the choice to put ourselves in those situations.
Yeah.
We have the same power to choose to get out of them.
Yeah.
So how do people do that?
So when I explain the choice and free will and all of that, like I like to go a little bit beyond just the mindset and being optimistic and so on. I actually want to explain it, or I usually share the perspective of our soul. So the thing is, the challenges that we have in our lives, and some of the challenges we create ourselves because we're not following our own guidance and we're being stubborn and so on. But a lot of challenges are actually chosen by our own soul, and it could be of karmic nature, which means that comes from past lives or quote unquote other lives, right? It might be something that your soul said, what, I want to learn this specific thing, and so your soul sees this opportunity, this life we're living here, as a school. And this school here offers a lot of opportunities for learning, and we learn through experience. So when we have fun and easy experiences, we get lazy, we don't learn much. Like life is great, I get it, like I'm larger than life, all is good, right? Yeah. But however, when things get challenging and when we end up in challenges, we get really humbled. And that's where the ego cracks. And I think, while a lot of people are, like there's a lot of, let's say, this new age mentality where, you should just be happy all the time and everything should be just flowing all the time. And if you're high vibrational and stuff like that, but it's not true, actually. That's, a lot of gaslighting here and a lot of spiritual bypassing. The reality is that as a soul, you have chosen specific challenges, and you will meet those challenges. They will come your way. And this is where there is no free will, because your soul has already made that decision. So it's part of your destiny, your plan. Now, your free will comes into play when you can decide how, with your free will, based on your free will decisions, the choices you make, how you're going to navigate your challenges. So that's really where our power lies. And people, because they don't understand the big picture of their life, something challenging happens and immediately they feel victimized. And, when you start feeling victimized and you don't understand what something like that happened, you just go, you just start drowning in the victim mentality. And a lot of people do, and they get very, very stuck. And they still feel very resentful towards, I don't know, whoever betrayed them, took their stuff, you name it, right? People can carry a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of the sense of injustice. And, I understand why somebody feels like that, but the reality is, if we would see the big picture of our soul's journey, not just looking at the slice of this reality and this life, but the soul journey, we then understand. We get a bigger perspective, deeper perspective, why something is happening and why something is so valuable. Because life doesn't waste time and space. Okay, so when something is brought into your reality, there's a reason for that. So all your challenges, I always say, are so very valuable. And they're painful. Sometimes they're extremely painful, excruciating. Yeah, but that's what really ignites our spiritual awakening. We don't transcend our ego by having this easy life where there are no challenges, because you can't evolve. Let's say your body, I always use this as an example, like how do you develop like good physique? How do you become really strong? Well, you have to keep challenging yourself, because if you don't, your physical skills and abilities stay at a certain level. And the same goes for everything. The same rules apply. So if you want to evolve consciously, spiritually, you have to understand that life will challenge you. Your own soul will challenge you. And then also on top of that, you have to be challenging yourself. You have to learn how to challenge yourself. And that's where, free will is so powerful, but most people don't have free will. Most people think that they're using their free will But all they're doing is they're basing their decisions on deep subconscious unresolved issues, I would say. You know, and they say, oh, you know, for example, let me give you a very practical example. And that's such a, you know, it's almost a cliche what I'm going to talk about, but, you know, in psychology, we often say, you know, that whatever we haven't learned from our childhood, from our parents, we kind of transfer to our adulthood. So, you know, we then say, oh, you know, I had a lot of clients who would say, you know, I married my husband and later on I realized he was my father. That actually married my father. Energetically, the patterns, the behaviors, or my mother, or, you know, we get into these repetitive patterns and we have no idea. And we think it's our free will. It's, you know, we would say, oh, this is exactly what I want. I'm choosing this person or this career or this situation because this is how I feel and this is my free will. And then later on, people realize it's like, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't my free will. It was something that already happened before. I was actually tapping into a pattern from my past. And that's where a lot of people then start doing inner work because they realize a lot of things start repeating themselves in their lives. So, you know, free will, how to get free will. We are as souls, we are given free will in this world, but are we really using it? Not until we actually clear those subconscious things. Until we clear subconscious programming, we have very little free will. Now, on top of that, when it comes to free will, there is a lot of collective programming happening as well. We are being bombarded from all sorts of sides with all sorts of different information. And again, people think, they say, oh, this is what I feel and this is what I want. But that's how marketing works. Marketing is everywhere. You know, you open any type of source of information, there's marketing, there's programming of your mind. So, you know, I think free will is such a powerful tool, but we first need to find a way to reclaim our free will. And then we can journey through this life in a very conscious and aligned way. And so, you know, I would say people feel that there's something missing in their life. They feel there's something is not quite right. And they feel the need that they need to change, but they don't know where to start or how. And, you know, it's a deep process of reprogramming yourself and going beyond the comfort zone and really diving into, you know, what is uncomfortable, making those big uncomfortable choices. They're not easy, but they are right. You know, they're the choices, they're the right ones for us. So it's a big journey, big responsibility.
Yes, I know. I've lived it.
Yeah.
More than once.
I
know what you were saying. For instance, it's like your parents. You get your first programming from them. You're a sponge. It's like from your environment, whoever's around you. And then, you know, I said goodbye to that. To my mother, stepmother, father, brother.
Yeah.
Right? They all were giving that same lesson that was painful for me. And I said, okay. And I walked away from it and I thought it was done, right? I did the right thing. I walked away. I feel good about this. I don't feel hurt about this, so forth. But the programming was still in there. So my relationships was basically, especially my last one, was my father, my mother, my stepmother, and my brother.
In one person?
In one person. And I was just like, okay. And I'm up there in years. I might not look it to most, but but I was like, it took me like until now, many decades later, to finally figure it out and release that. And the free will that you're talking about, I thought I had free will.
Exactly.
But it's how you use it. Like, it's how consciously, I believe, you use it. So how conscious you are in the free will. And this has to do with soul alignment, because I was stubborn. I had this programming, and it was from my father. If you work hard, you work. It has to be hard. You keep going, no matter what, eventually you're going to get there. And the opposite was happening. I was working so hard. I was not lazy, I'll tell you, like 12-hour days, doing things I loved to. And it wasn't happening. And I was just like, I'm going to get there. I was not in the right alignment. I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And my whole world fell apart. crumbled, got into a car accident. My house was rotten when I got home. It was like everything fell apart. And it took me that harsh kind of crisis to realize it's like, I get it. I finally get it. I don't belong here. And that's when my intuition came back. So I wanted you to and then once I took the leap and said, okay, I'm leaving, I totally moved to another state. I totally changed everything, and all the synchronicities and things that led me showed me that I was moving towards my alignment, because I was getting positive results from making that change. So it's like I felt like the most important thing was tuning into myself. So how do people get rid of like all that static of the world? I mean, disconnect as much as you can from the collective, I'll call it, I don't even like calling it propaganda, but marketing. Like the news is marketing certain emotions that are low vibrational. They're not focusing on the positive. They make it seem like the world is falling apart, disaster. And in some ways, it is, but there's so much beauty and there's so much love and there's so much more going on that doesn't get the visibility. So that's why I disconnected from all of that. And then all of a sudden it was like, I got myself back, and then I could hear myself. So, how to like, I don't know, how do you change your perception of things? Like if you do the same thing over and over again, it's not working. It's only bringing you more challenges. Then you have to shift to something else. So how does a person get out of that programming and shift their perspective and move forward?
Well, as I said, there are many different, techniques, tools, whatever, guidelines out there, how to change our patterns and so on and so on. But I think, everything starts with one very fundamental choice. And you have to, while your life is unfolding, and a lot of people are, they have careers, families, whatever, and they feel things are not working, for example, right? Yet they're like, what else? What do I do? Right? Even though their soul is crying and screaming in them, and they're still ignoring it. And even though life keeps showing up evidence that it's time to move on, they keep holding on to the past. So, a lot of people are doing that. And when we go against the natural order of things, when we go against the flow of life and how our soul is guiding us, we start getting sick. So a lot of people are getting sick because of this reason, because they are making themselves sick, because they are not putting their soul first. I know that the idea of putting your soul first sounds a bit cliche, but it's really, really essential, because everyone, and this is like kind of a self-inquiry that I like to do on a daily basis. Every day you have to inquire, is the reality that I'm living at this present moment, is it in alignment? Is this right? If it was right yesterday, it doesn't mean that it's right today. People change, things change, and if things start getting out of alignment, that doesn't mean you don't love people. It just means that when there is no alignment, there is no natural kind of flow of things, and things start getting really messy and uncomfortable, and it's time to move on. So people have to have this kind of discipline to just put themselves first and say, you know what, this life is for me, and I have to live my life to the best of my abilities. However, people are caught up in all sorts of dramas, all sorts of guilt issues, codependency. I mean, look, the problem is that, as a society, we are mentally very unwell. This is mentally a very sick society. And, obviously people don't want to hear that, but this is a very, very sick society. Even people who are very positive, loving, empathic are also very wounded. And they need to do a lot of healing to return to self-love and find inner balance. So how do you thrive in a very sick society? Well, first of all, you have to, break down the reality and everything you thought that was normal, and realize all this negativity, all this bullshit out there. Sorry, but it is BS. this is not okay. This is not how things should be. People got very, desensitized, and I think people feel the negativity in the world is normal, and having a little bit negativity in your own life, that's perfectly fine. It's what else, like what else can I do? And so that's the first thing I would say. People need to sit down and really examine their life. So when do we do that? When we're forced to do that. When it's not painful enough, we usually ignore it. So that's the nature of human ego. So until somebody's ego gets crashed and smashed and broken enough, until the pain is unbearable, people will hold on to old things and will hold on to old things even though they know it's not right for them, right? And most of people begin their journey of healing when the pain becomes unbearable. And so the crisis, the challenging times in our lives and crises have such important value because they are wake-up calls. When something in your life shatters, and you might act very surprised, but then when you look back, you're like, well, actually, I already had the feeling. I just didn't want to, I didn't want to look into it. I didn't want to acknowledge it. So the thing is, we're constantly being guided intuitively, but it's just that as a society, we've become such masters in ignoring our intuition. So a lot of people, obviously, in the last few decades started awakening, and a lot of people started realizing the responsibility they have for their own life. So it comes down to your choice. Do you want to live the life you're living, or in case it's not something that you really feel that's aligned with your heart, but yet you don't want to make the big uncomfortable choices. So if you're okay with that, well, then you'll have to be okay with the consequences of going against yourself, right? Whatever consequences will be, it's your responsibility, because consequences will come. That's a given. Like everything has an effect. There's an effect, there's a result, there's a consequence to everything. So people think that they can avoid consequences. So if you're happy staying in negativity, and if you're happy staying in unhappy or very toxic relationships and careers and leading a very unhealthy, toxic lifestyle, it's your free will choice. Go for it. You are going to obviously destroy yourself, but, it's your choice. Or you can say, you know what? I can change this. And then you take responsibility. And if needed, you find help, you find people, you find books, materials that will help you understand the process of breaking down the old reality. And it is a painful process. And then, guiding yourself to a very different reality. And, you just explained how you've gone through that process. I've gone through that process so many times in my life. And all I can say is when when things start to change, I would say it's very, very scary and painful, but oh my God, every single time when I completely trusted the flow of change and surrendered, amazing rewards, unbelievable rewards. Like what awaits us around the corner the moment we let go of our fear and our attachments and go with full trust in our soul and high guidance. And so people need to make a decision, are they going to put their soul first or not? And if you don't want to put your soul first, then, you can go to all sorts of trainings, you can do all sorts of courses, read so many books, but nothing's going to change. You're still making yourself sick. And eventually you will get a consequence, you will get a result to your dysfunctional behavior. So in this time and age, at this very particular time, I would say this year is all about, self-responsibility, being accountable for your own life, getting out of that idea that we are victims of reality or unseen forces. No, we're the creators of our own reality. So you have to take charge. You have to take responsibility. And if you don't, really sorry, your problem. And that's, it sounds a bit harsh, but that's how it is.
Well, it is. And I went through it and everything fell apart. And that was the point where I said to myself, I will never let a brick house fall. I said this exactly. I will never let a brick house fall on me again before I make a change that I'm supposed to make, that I know I'm supposed to make. And I feel like, people are afraid of of that step and change for fear of what's going to happen
Yeah.
after or what's not going to happen after. And it's like you just got to take a step. Like a step in that, it doesn't have to be what I did, which was I just took off because that was it. And it worked out really well, and all these beautiful magical opportunities came to play. But like I tell people, this is what I tell people, because they're like, what? Like I'm like trying to survive. I'm like, this is going on, and it's like I feel trapped in this and so forth. And I'm just like, and they think I'm crazy. Just do one thing a day that you really love doing.
Yeah.
And it's going to show you how things can be different. And it could be like, just go to the flower shop, or go to any market, because there's flowers there now. If you love flower, just smell them. It doesn't have to be like, I need 25 minutes to do this or to meditate, or just like the smallest things. Go outside, take a walk. Get out of that pattern.
Yeah, when we get caught up in these patterns, right, and these responsibilities and these dynamics, it's exactly like you said. We start taking these first steps, baby steps, towards what makes us feel good. And the more you do the things that make you feel good, the more you feel alive, the more you start feeling yourself again. You're like, this is who I am. I remember now. I remember before I convinced myself that I was somebody else, right? Or I needed to be different, or I needed to change. And that's when this return journey begins. And it's a very powerful experience. It's a death and rebirth. It's a death of ego and rebirth into, a much more authentic version of us. And I understand why it feels scary, because there are so many, when you go through big changes in life, there are so many unknown things, out there. Like, there's so much unknown. Where am I going to live? How am I going to make money? How is this going to happen? What is my life going to look like? Who are going to be people in my circle? Like, what's going to be happening with me? And we all are presented with different challenges and changes, but I would say, people really on a collective need to let go of their old environments and old dynamics. Whatever isn't working, it's time to move on and just trust. And then magic happens, real magic, because every person has the ability, and has not just the ability, but responsibility to weave their dreams, their soul's vision, into reality. The things you dream about, the things you would like to experience, the things you feel so deeply in your heart, they're there for you, but you have to first choose yourself. Sometimes people are really in horrible, loveless marriages, and they have no idea how to get out. Like, choose yourself. Or careers, choose yourself, meaningless careers. Or, whatever is so kind of meaningless and doesn't make sense, and it's not alive. Look, choose yourself. Don't try to chase things out there. Choose yourself every day. Take care of yourself. Do things that you love. Fall in love with yourself, and treat yourself like that day by day. And then through that self-love and self-recognition, amazing things will come your way. And this is the lesson for humanity, to return to the heart, to return to self-love. I feel that this is really what's going to clear up this whole collective chaos.
Yes, I'm like, everything for me is the heart. It's like opening. It's like people need to, like you were saying it in so many ways. Like you have to. It's like when people say open your heart, they really think that it's like let people in. It's like, no, you need to open your heart to yourself. You need to give you that love, and all the inner work, and even it sounds corny, meditation. It's like you connect to that love. It's like you have to give it to yourself. And I think all the codependent things happen because we're giving someone else the power to do that, or we expect somebody else to make us happy, and it never works. You could be happy for a little bit. Never works. So
it's like fast food, so unhealthy. So like when we talk about self-love, what I often, when people say, but what do you mean by self-love? I do love myself, right? And it comes down to how you live in your day-to-day life. Like, and it starts with not the
how
things
you treat yourself.
Yes, but how you treat yourself, from the moment you wake up. And life is about, first of all, creating the best version of ourselves. This is our biggest assignment. This is our biggest lesson, because we will always have certain challenges, and through those challenges, our spiritual, let's say, consciousness is tested, or maturity, or level of evolution. And if we successfully overcome those challenges, then, and we step even into a better or more evolved or higher version of ourselves, well, we pass the test. So first of all is about creating the best possible version of yourself, and not just emotionally, mentally, also physically, spiritual. Like, how do you take absolute best care of yourself and stop treating yourself as a garbage can, throwing things in and just trash in and just being really horrible. But
that includes
putting
people,
yourself,
bringing people in that do that to you.
Yes, or that, like exposing yourself to negativity, having a really unhealthy lifestyle. I mean, there's so many things. So that's, I would say, you have to structure your day where you keep tuning in, and you keep tuning into how you're feeling, what your real needs are. And you will realize that, having a very healthy lifestyle, that's the foundation. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have all the, mindset work, consciousness, spirituality, all of that. You bring all of that in. And when you do that every day, and you have a spiritual practice that you've developed for yourself, you don't need to follow anyone. You develop your own spiritual practice, because everything that you do in a day should be conscious, a conscious decision. It should be done as a practice of honoring yourself, of honoring your physical vehicle, your body, of honoring your heart, your soul. And when you live your life, your day-to-day life like that, I mean, you're on accelerated path to success in all areas of your life. So self-love doesn't just happen randomly because we do a little bit of meditation or we attend a training. Self-love is actually practice of how you live in your day-to-day life, how you're treating yourself. And then from that, you then move into the world and you deal with people, you connect with people, you connect with the right people, you have healthy boundaries and so on. You make healthy choices. But without that kind of grounding in self-love every day, in everyday life, it's very hard. So, I think what people are dealing with is that decades and decades of being disconnected from themselves. Maybe having a hobby or two, but not really, holistically being grounded in self-love and self-care. And for a lot of people, self-care is a very foreign thing. And they make all sorts of excuses why they can't put themselves first. And that's where things go down. So when we, if we want to transform anything in our lives, it has to start with putting ourselves first and say, you know what, I have to make this choice. I have to make this decision. And then stick with it. And then
yeah. I went through that too. It's like
yeah.
I may be enlightened on many levels, at least that's my belief for myself. But it's like I was always doing for other people. And it's like, I have kids, and that's your job, to nurture and guide them to empower themselves, and it's like I was always there. The second, and this could be not just with kids, with anything, like relationships, anything. The second I said, wait a second, I'm not taking care of myself. I need to do this. This is something I dreamt of doing, and I put it aside. I want to do this now, and I would do that. I became selfish somehow to other people.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not being selfish. That's what I think we're trained into. It's like if you think about yourself, you're narcissistic or selfish, and narcissism is a whole other thing.
No, it's completely different. Well, what we have to understand here, there are two things we're talking about. There are two realities. So we have the old reality that was based, this kind of collective consciousness. There's very low consciousness, and it's kind of really connected to a lot of trauma. And all of this trauma, and that's why I said, as a society, we're not well collectively speaking, because there's so much trauma that has been caused through so many generations. And so, we are conditioned into trauma just by being here. being born into this world, and you know, our childhood stuff starts happening, you know, there's so many divorces, so much toxicity. I mean, you know, let's not go down that rabbit hole, but basically, you know, trauma is the first thing. And then when you don't heal that trauma, you keep recreating traumatic experiences in one way or another. So when people say, but why did this happen to me, or why did this happen to this person, this is such a positive, loving person, you know, it's like, well, there's a lot of unresolved trauma probably there. So the old reality, as we like to call it, is, you know, is really connected to trauma, to generational trauma, to, I mean, a lot of really heavy things. And then we are talking also about the new reality. When we free ourselves from the trauma, we heal, and then completely new reality opens up for us. So what people are experiencing now collectively through, in different ways, like there are different types of crisis or different things that motivate people, but a lot of people are now feeling this calling to heal so they can move into a very different reality. People in this time and age are realizing that they have a choice what kind of life they're going to be living. And maybe 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, it felt like, this is my life, this is what I was born into, I don't have any power, right? However, now things have completely changed. So people are realizing, you know, there are so many options out there. You can choose so many things. But again, you cannot escape the things you need to heal and deal with. So, you know, when we heal, we can then move into that really expanded reality where, you know, all of a sudden you have the right people coming into your life, you have the right business opportunities, everything starts to flow for you, and you're like, wow, right? But that happened because you've learned to put yourself first. You learned how to end the cycle, the generational cycle of trauma, repetitive cycle. You healed. You said, enough. I'm going to first heal. I'm not going to repeat what my parents did, or their parents, or whatever, or my neighbors, or my society, my country. I'm changing the pattern. So the self-responsibility, you know, and making such a conscious choice is what sets this new reality into motion. So, you know, people dream about things. Oh, I wish I would have like a better job or a different partner. I mean, yes, if you dream about it, if you feel that this is something you would like to experience, that it's available to you, it's possible. But you make that possibility happen by doing the necessary inner work. It's not like some people are just lucky and others aren't. Like, no. You create your own luck, you create your own happiness. Like, a lot of people who are the most successful people, or who create the greatest success in life, often come from very disadvantaged, you know, childhood or environment. Often. Why do these people succeed? Because very early on in their life, they learn about self-responsibility. They realize that nobody's going to save them. Nobody's coming to save them. Nobody's going to do anything instead of them. And, you know, they will have to do the work. And very often, very young, as like 5-year-olds, even 3-year-olds, they get it.
That was me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is reality. I'm responsible for myself. And bam, that's something that's going to make a massive difference. And when you have all these children who are glued to social media, who are like on their iPads or whatever, right? They're not connecting with reality. When they have everything, they have everything, right? They're not connecting with reality anymore. It's, you know, I honestly am a bit concerned about this generation, because these generations that are coming in now are such high vibration souls, but they are being attacked by technology. There's an actual attack happening. And if you can get, like, if you guys are listening to this and you have children, if you can get them off technology into nature and sports, and make them grow their food, do sports
or music, if they are into that.
Yes, like helping, I don't know, animal shelters, whatever.
Real things.
Make them, like, help them become good human beings, and don't let them fall into the trap of technology. I mean, that's really what needs to be done now, because this is a new level of trauma. Okay, the old trauma was, you know, people fighting, arguing, physical abuse, and so on. New type of trauma is
psychological
technology. I'm not kidding. Like people are, oh, it's, I know how easy it is. Like, oh, watch a cartoon. And so, one cartoon is fine. But like, I'm talking about kids that spend hours every day on their like iPads or playing games. Like, that's not all right.
You have to use it with consciousness. I mean, you're halfway around the world from me, and we're able to do this because of technology. So it's not technology itself; it's what's being it's what's being presented in that technology and the habitual, addictive kind of thing. And I think it's the same thing that we're talking about, which is tuning into your soul. It's like that's keeping you in this other reality. And if you do the things you were saying, like do real things, like go outside, do sports, do the thing, all those things, it's like then you'll be back in yourself and you'll be seeing yourself.
Yeah. And I have a 7-year-old now, and he's finally ready to start listening a little bit more to me. And we just yesterday, because he was talking about fast food and the fast food chains. Let's not mention names here because I don't want to promote any of them. But he was saying, yeah, but it's all right. I was like, oh, no, sweetie, it's not all right. And, I explained to him why it's not all right, why I spend so much time buying food, cooking food, preparing things, all organic, like why, right? And he didn't quite understand. And I said, you know what, let's watch a documentary. And I put on the Super Size Me documentary. And he, about, eating a month of McDonald's, basically. And he watched the first half an hour, he was mortified. He was like, oh my God. I was like, do you understand now? A little bit more, yeah. I was like, good. So, it's about self-responsibility, teaching these new generations about self-responsibility. This is also something that maybe, our parents didn't really teach us. They would just say, well, this is how it is in life. This is how it is. They would traumatize themselves. They didn't have understanding, and they did their best. But we are this bridge between old and new reality. And these kids are born into this new reality where there's so much technology. Their spiritual consciousness needs to be nurtured. They need to be awake and conscious, because then they will use the technology exactly like you said, Roberta. They will know how to use it in the right way. And it's not going to be something that disconnects them from their soul and from nature and from their inner world. But it's going to be something that maybe can enhance or simplify their life, but not replace their real connections or real human-to-human experience, right? So we really have to be very, very conscious now and very responsible also about the next generations as well. Because, while it's all good and well, talking about adults and how people have this need to change their lives for the better, but I would say our real work is the next generations, is helping these children understand self-responsibility, because they will be bombarded much more than we were with all sorts of marketing. Because the way the marketing works is it's designed to capture people's consciousness, their attention. So they buy, they become consumers, they lose themselves. So how do we prevent that from happening? And I think that's really our biggest job when it comes to humanity. Because if we can get these children on track, in alignment, then this world is gonna go, pretty well. Like it's gonna be pretty good, I think. Otherwise, technology can take over, and that's definitely not a good outcome. So, in December, I do these events, these portal events, and when we do like meditations and all sorts of things. And I was channeling, bringing through information from the Ascended Masters. And one of the messages for the 2023 and onwards was about technology. And they were saying, that this is now the time where we have to become very, very conscious and understand that there are two realities happening. The part, like a certain group, let's say, of people is going to really move into consciousness, natural way of living, and so on, right? They're very in tune with all of that. They have very little need for technology. And then another group is going to go really into technology, and majority of the world is going to go into technology. And that it's so important for us not to resent technology or argue with it, but embrace it as a part of our evolution. However, those of us who feel so spiritually called or so called to do spiritual work in the world, to bring that understanding to the masses so that people don't lose themselves in technology, that this is actually the most important thing, they said, in these times, because we're not going to prevent the technological advancement. We're not going to get everyone on board, everyone meditating, everyone doing their inner work. I mean, people don't want to do that. So, how it's about the next generations. How do we plant the seeds of this more balanced reality? And this is really where it's all needed.
When you just said that, I was just like, it just made me feel, I was like, we're like reliving the old Atlantis.
Yes.
And it's like, it's almost like, are we gonna do it right this time? Do it better.
Yes,
I wouldn't say right. Do it better this time.
Yes, we are. We are. Oh. It's
because it could go different ways.
Atlantis was a very complicated time, and a lot of people, really glorify the times of Atlantis. And, we have, as with Lemuria, we always have different, stages, and there were beautiful times as well. But all in all, there was a lot of interference with higher consciousness, and a lot of low level, I would say, energies infiltrated into our collective consciousness, and things just went downhill from there. So, we found ourselves in some ways at the lowest point in consciousness, much lower than then. We literally fell in consciousness. It was the fall from grace,
right?
Because we misused the tools we had. So what humanity doesn't understand, and this is the ego of humanity, is this ego, like, I'm larger than life, right? I have this big machine, like I have this whatever tools, like I'm larger than I'm bigger than nature. You're not, honey, you're not. Like, let's be a little bit more humble. And that's the problem with humanity. So, is humanity gonna recreate their downfall? We are here to prevent that. While we can't prevent the technology from evolving and taking, going to the next level, what we can, however, do is bring enough spiritual consciousness and self-responsibility amongst the masses that people will still have common sense when it comes to technology. Because everything, the way things are designed, like, this is what people need to understand. All the video games, everything that, is out there that we exposed our children to, it's there for a reason. It's enabled, allowed, encouraged for a reason. So it's kind of set up in a way to pull them from just normal common sense. So we're here to bring as much common sense as possible into the collective. And when people have that balance, then, things will be all right. Common sense. Look, last few years, the drama we went through collectively, what was, it was an attack. Like, it was an attack, and whoever says that it wasn't, it was an attack. Now, question is, what was really happening? Well, our, amongst other things, our common sense was being completely challenged, because things were so conflicting. There was so many lies and layers, and it's all coming out now, all coming out now. Of course, mainstream media doesn't want to report it, but it's all coming out now. But common sense, people started questioning their common sense. So, common sense is a big thing.
Like, it's like, it was presented in a way where it was one thing, then no, it's this. No, it was that. No, it's this. Now it's this. And it's just like, how can anyone make sense of it? It creates a confusion. And I think the way out of that for a lot of people in that moment of what happened, but we have to remember that for future things to come, future challenges to our consciousness or our common sense, is that you have to really say, like, people can try to convince you of everything, even in everyday life, even if we're not talking about
exactly
it. And it's like, people can logically, create an argument that's like, oh, well, that makes sense, but you have to really follow how that feels to you. And I think that's the way out of the confusion. Doesn't matter what anybody else is saying, left, right, middle, every degree in between. It's like, how do you feel about it? It's almost like you have to, not listen to other people's opinions. and really just listen to your own intuition, which is what I feel is common sense.
Yeah.
It's not logical. It's not logic.
No.
Something else.
What we're experiencing now, and this is what people need to understand, is the collective madness. And the way things are designed, all the media, all the sources of mainstream information are designed to create collective confusion, which leads for many people to collective madness, because people don't have their own grounding and anchoring in their own, awareness or in their own intuition. They lose their common sense. It's designed like that. It's designed to be confusing, conflicting, because the more people are confused, the more they're kind of detached from themselves, and it's easier then to manipulate everyone. So, if we look back at the different indigenous tribes, right, in different tribes from the world, they all kind of had the same message. They said, well, the world's going to come to a point of, purification and cleansing, because this type of madness and negativity can't keep happening. People need to start honoring Mother Earth. They need to start taking care of the planet, of each other. And they would always explain the Western man is crazy. They're crazy, and they are. Like, think about it. You decide that this is now your land, and you kill everyone. I mean, no consciousness. You kill people, you kill animals, cut down the trees, whatever you want, because this is what you want, right? And this is how the Western mind operates. And it's a state of absolute madness, or it's very schizophrenic. And so we need to understand that when we're following the sources of mainstream media, they're programming us or hypnotizing us into a perspective that is going to pull us more and more and more away from our inner knowing and common sense. And that's where your own reality, your health, your well-being, your success, everything goes down really quickly. So we need to understand that we live in different times that maybe our parents or grandparents. There is something very big happening on this planet, and it's almost a battle for consciousness of humanity. So the indigenous tribes explain that, humanity, the Western world, will get an opportunity to clear, to purify. And so there will be a lot of chaos, a lot of different catastrophes. And the purpose is to clear the world, for people to clear their consciousness and return to the heart. And if they want, they're going to create they're going to create self-destruction. And, you mentioned Atlantis. Atlantis was an example of self-destruction. People self-destruct. Negativity self-destructs. Negativity wants to go out there and destruct others, but in the end, it self-destructs. So we now have a choice and a chance of finally healing this world, all of us. But we need to wake up from this mass hypnosis. And there are so many levels of this mass hypnosis. I mean, we kind of went through a few of these layers, but we can speak about our childhood trauma. We can speak about the conditioning, the educational system, the health system, like everything, the media, everything is structured in a way to pull you away from your power. So it's an interesting time. It's really everyone individual needs to recognize their responsibility, not just for their own life and their own individual happiness, but the role they have come into this world to play. And a few years ago, actually 7 years ago, a few years ago, almost a decade, I got this clear guidance to set up the soul calling. So my website, soulcalling.com. And what Spirit said to me is, like, at this time, the most important thing is people's souls calling. People need to understand their purpose. And, there are a lot of people out there saying, oh, just live your life, just be present. You don't need to know your purpose. Don't overcomplicate things. And, knowing your purpose is not about overcomplicating or analyzing anything. It's actually about tuning in.
It's your direction.
Yes, it's about going beyond all the repetitive patterns that you've recreated through your life, and going beyond into your heart, into your soul, and saying, okay, what am I doing here? What is this about? And then your soul will start guiding you, and your soul will say, look, you've had this marriage, this situation, because you needed to learn, but now it's time to move on, and this is who you really are, and you have these beautiful gifts, and you're meant to share them with the world, and you're meant to help others, and you're meant to live your absolute best life. This is your purpose. And when people recognize that, they're like, oh, everything changes. So think about it, right? If millions of people would start tapping into their own inner calling, the world practically changes overnight. And this is our biggest responsibility, to exactly what you said earlier, to go beyond, to go into the heart, into the intuition, and just following that inner guidance. And I know it's scary. Following intuition is always scary, because it pulls you away from what you know and what your comfort zone, but the rewards are amazing. And whoever wants to create a different life for themselves, I would say go within and see how you can benefit the world, how your presence can benefit the world, how you can not save the world. I'm not saying go out there and save the world. We're not here to save anyone. We're here to inspire, ignite passion, bring ideas, light, solutions, See how you can make this world a better place. And then things will fall into place for you as well. That's how reality works. You take care of reality, reality takes care of you. So it's a beautiful circle of life, I would say. So it's
I don't think people understand how much power they have. It's like, and it doesn't have, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be you don't have to like run a huge company that does all of this stuff and empowers people. Great if that's your mission and you can fulfill it. But it's like even fulfilling the smallest things, and even like walking around, when you walk in a room, this is my challenge for people then. I'll just say it this way. When you walk into a room, I challenge you to make it this much better before you leave.
Yeah.
And you can do that with just a smile or opening a door or letting someone go before you. It does, whatever it is. And then that's like the heart opening, and that becomes and then it pulls someone else. It could pull someone else out of whatever is going on, all the static that's going on in their lives. I do it in the supermarket all the time.
Yeah. Yes. And it's, not everyone's gonna, listen to that kind of podcasts or listen to workshops, read books. Like, people learn and evolve in different ways. Not everyone's gonna go this way, like they choose this path. So I just wanted to share this beautiful example. Okay. So we've just moved a house now, and we have this amazing neighbor. Okay, like, incarnation of just kindness, basically embodied kindness, the nicest person. And he would take your beans out or do all sorts of things for you without you even asking, just because he recognizes that one of his neighbors needs something. I mean, absolutely amazing. And just the other day, I was chatting with him, and he looked at me, he's like, I'm so happy you guys are our new neighbors. I mean, absolutely lovely. And we're driving home the other day, and he was just like cutting the grass on one of our neighbors because they weren't home, because he knew they went away. And he would bring people food, and just because of the goodness of his heart. That's it, like nothing else. And I was just like observing him and his energy. I was like, this is really how we're meant to live these lives, with such level of kindness, where we tune into the world around us, and we recognize how we can be of service. And people think that it's creating success in life and being successful and thriving, it's about having more and just whatever, right? Big businesses, lots of money, whatever. No, it's about being more. It's about how can you create this wave of happiness, wave of love, of compassion. Because when you are of service, whatever you're doing, whatever career you choose, whatever you do in your personal life, when this is your intention or this is your alignment, you will affect people in different ways. Like, it's gonna go deeper, it's gonna ignite something in them. And for me, just watching that neighbor, I was observing him, and he just ignited something in me. I was like, yeah, there are people like that, amazing. He, for me, is like, that's a testament of these higher energies that are incarnated in people, and it's important to recognize that, and it's important for us to choose kindness over anything. So we've covered a lot today. We've gone through a lot of topics.
I know.
Very interesting conversation. But I think it all goes down.
It's free to be an example, right?
Yeah.
Look at how much inspiration and care and love you just got from one person.
Yeah. And it's actually a very spiritual experience in a world where people are so isolated, so focused on themselves, especially in the Western world, so self-orientated in a negative way. Because not because people are mean, people are scared. People are scared to connect. People are scared to open up because they've been hurt so many times. And it's hard. Like, why should I be nice to? Like, I'm just gonna hide, right? Hide my sweet little heart. Like, it's too much. This world is too much. So, reaching out, connecting with the right people, letting go of negativity in your own life, and saying, you know what, I'm going to trust my soul. I'm going to put my soul first and do that. And everything's going to change. I can guarantee that. Is it going to be hard? Yeah, there are going to be moments of, grief and sadness and confusion, as we know, Roberta, right? But that's normal. That's normal. Because, in the end, when you heal, when you're done with those experiences and those challenges, a very different reality opens up for you. And that's where you can be very creative and you can do more, you can help more, you can create a greater impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think challenges are important. They're like, sometimes they suck. They feel uncomfortable. It's not great, but it also directs you. It also directs you. It's not all like, all the positive, everything. Like you were saying, I think in one of your live Instagram things recently, you were talking about challenges, and we can't all be up here in this high vibration and disconnect ourselves from the reality that we're living in. Even if we don't like the reality, it's like we have to, I forget what you said, so maybe you can, exactly. Like, I'm not going to do it justice, so I'd rather you.
Well, what I was saying is that, being high vibrational, what people maybe think is like, oh, I'm always good, I'm always happy, everything's flowing, everything is easy. No, like being high vibrational is dealing with things. That's when you're high vibrational. And you live in polarity. So you will always get a mix of really lovely experiences and really harsh experience or challenging experience. But the key is not to get stuck in negativity and, fighting against your challenges, but it's to work through them. And that's how we grow. So being high vibration, what people think it's, I've removed myself from all the challenges. I mean, I'm making these amazing amounts of money. I mean, everything is easy, come to my training, I'll teach you. Like, horrible, right? No, that's not real. What is real is that we live in polarity. You will, like, the more you heal, the more you work through your issues, the challenges will be different, and you will have the ability to navigate those challenges in a very different way. And it's going to feel almost effortless, but that's not because there is no polarity, there are no challenges you love, because you've mastered it. So this is kind of, I would say, people need to get a little bit more real about life and about, positivity and being, how to bring their higher consciousness or how to live in alignment with their soul. I mean, let's be real here. Soul comes here to learn lessons, not to lay on the beach and get a nice suntan. I mean, that's part of it, a small portion of it for majority of people. But, for majority, reality is a lot of challenges. And let's be real. So how do we deal with that? And how do we navigate in a way that we evolve, we keep getting stronger, we keep thriving more and more, and we keep creating a better world? I think this is our responsibility in this time and age.
Thank you. I just got an image of, like, when you were saying that, it's like, isn't that the point? It's like, okay, we bring ourselves to this higher vibration, right? And then, I just think of it as you're floating in the clouds, and it's like, oh, I finally released myself from all of that, 3D drama or like whatever. And then, but isn't really the purpose to, I think it's going to come back on, isn't really the purpose to bring that consciousness, bring it here. If you're a person that can get yourself to whatever place where you feel balanced and liberated and freer, there'll be challenges, but it's like, bring that down to here, and that's how you can make a huge difference. I think we're saying the same thing. I just said it differently.
Absolutely, yeah. Bring it to this world, to bring into reality, to make your day-to-day reality really meaningful. I would say meaningful, deeply meaningful. And at the end of the day, you don't feel, oh, yeah, it was all right, meaningless. No, every day, live it to the fullest, make it meaningful. And if you don't know how, start your day with the intention and just say, my soul, please guide me so I can be of service, so I can live my absolute best life today. That's it. Things will start happening. And you do that every day. Very simple prayer or intention. And things will start unfolding.
And it builds. That's why I think being grateful, like I think I talked about this in some video somewhere, because it kind of sounds silly. Like I thought it was silly at first, and I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, I'm grateful for that. And it's just like, it puts things in perspective. That's what it did.
Yeah.
Just saying, yeah. And even during the big pandemic, I'm like laying there in bed and I woke up. I'm so grateful that I woke up, I'm alive, and I'm breathing.
Yeah,
that was like simple in that moment. But, there's so many things to be grateful for, and we can't forget that. Even when our life is, I'll just say it, shit, crap.
Yeah.
There's always a way out.
The whole Western perspective on life is very, very distorted. We are kind of conditioned to be in constant resistance when it comes to flowing with life. No, I'm in control. No, I'm deciding what's going to happen. And if things that I didn't want to happen are happening, I'm going to be angry, resentful, and mean, right? This is kind of the Western mind. And then when we, again, go back to the more indigenous people that are more connected to the land and to the higher consciousness, their perspective is completely different. They flow with that life. There is no resistance. Everything, goes through cycles, and they respect cycles of nature, cycles of life. All the material things are shared. Everyone operates through unity, the concept of unity and mutual support, and everything is grounded in the heart. And when tribes or communities operate like that, it's a very different experience. The Western crazy mind, it's all about gaining more material stuff, more, be more, like Instagram realities. And it's lie after lie after lie, right? And no wonder people get so unwell. No wonder there's so much anxiety, so many panic attacks, mental health issues, physical issues. No wonder, because people are completely disconnected from natural cycles of life, like completely. From daily cycles, from the elements, from the air. Spending all day long living in little offices with, artificial air, basically. You name it, right? Artificial lighting. No wonder. So people need to start thinking, how are they flowing with life, and where they're putting up that resistance. And instead of putting up resistance, you just have to, let go of that resistance and start flowing with life. And we could talk about so much more when it comes to all of this, but what I just kind of wanted to share today was, this importance of people to start waking up to reality and to realize that what we have been conditioned to believe through the Western mainstream media and through our, upbringing and so on, that reality it's not really reality. That's not really life. The point of life is not, you're born, then you go to school, then you have a career, then you have a family, then you get sick, and then you die. That's not the point of life.
And then people wonder why I don't feel fulfilled. It's like, because you're living some other life, someone else's version of your life.
Yes. And so it's going to get, I feel it's going to get very intense for a lot of people. It's going to be, this what we're talking about today, Roberta, is going to be a very harsh wake-up call for a lot of people, because suddenly they're going to realize, I've done everything by the book. I've done everything that I was supposed to do. I was supposed to get a good career, get married, have a family, this and that, and now my life is falling apart. What has just happened? Well, your soul's calling. Your soul is calling you to wake up. While there's nothing wrong with that just mentioned, it's beautiful, to go to school, to learn things, families, whatever, but we are so much more than that. And the way we're conditioned into this programming of how our life should unfold, and how, you know, the steps that most people follow, for a lot of people, it completely disconnects them from their soul. So while they may be new when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, they still had their dreams, their soul was still there, they were still connected to their soul. At some point they're disconnected, and they said, well, you know, it's just dreams, it's illusions, I need to be real. So, you know, we are healing this big dysfunctional, distorted Western mind. Let's put it like that. It's very materialistic. It's very disconnected from the soul, from the spirit of the world, of nature, animals. Very, very disconnected. Very destructive force. And when if people don't like what I've just said, that, you know, our Western mind or collective consciousness of humanity is very, very unwell. It's very sick. It's very crazy. You know, just look at how humanity destroys the world and nature. How we're doing all of that, in what kind of ways. So what kind of mindset, what kind of energy do you have to be able to do that without any guilt or responsibility? So, you know, we're dealing with big things here.
Yeah, I feel like what you just said is important, and it's important to say, and it's like some people might be like, oh, what are you talking about? You know, there's so many great things about Western culture and stuff like that. I don't think that's what you're talking about. It's the destructive part. It's the part that disconnects us. And I think that a lot of people, like, in their hearts, when they listen, it's going to resonate in some way, even if someone bristles against it and is just like, no. It's like that, but they're gonna think about it, then they're gonna see something else later and go, hey, wait, maybe. So, you know,
everyone,
you have to speak truth. You have to.
Yeah, and look, I'm not here to persuade anyone ever. I just say what I see. And, you know, sometimes people don't like that, but that's fine. I'm not here to be liked. It's not about that. It's about sharing, you know, a greater perspective. And often people then awaken to this perspective. And, you know, also myself, like, there are things that I didn't want to wake up to. There are harsh realities of this world that I didn't want to see, because it's so painful to see them. It's so much easier to say, no, life is fun. It's all is well. Everything's good. However, sooner or later comes a point where we do need to realize what's really happening and take responsibility. And also, you know, at the end, we always meet ourselves. Everyone is going to meet themselves. Everyone. There is no judgment. You see yourself. You experience yourself. And I have also worked with a lot of, in my, you know, I've been working for over 20 years now. And I worked at some point in my journey, I worked as a medium, as a psychic medium, and for many years. And I've worked with a lot of people who've lost loved ones. You know, and that's basically one of the most painful experiences. And all I can say is that, you know, when you are at that point where there's nothing to hold on to, there are no more excuses, right? There are no more, because you realize that life, you know, has just decided it's game over. You know, it's time to transition to spirit world. And when people get to that point of losing their own life, because I worked with a lot of people who are crossing over as well, or people who lost loved ones, they wake up, their priorities change, everything changes, because they realize all of a sudden the real essence of life, the real importance, what is really real. And so, you know,
isn't that what this journey is to prepare yourself, like shamans say, it's like you're always preparing yourself for death. Not in a morbid way, but you're preparing yourself basically, like if you discover your soul calling by, you know, getting rid of the static that keeps you, so you can hear your soul, you can hear yourself. It's like, and you start to fulfill your mission, and why you're going to feel closer to that, and you're moving forward. And then when you get to that point, you'll have less regret.
Oh, you're at peace. You're at peace. You're like, I'm ready. And you just go home and you're done, you're happy. So it's a big life. This life we're living now, it's a big life and it's a big journey. So maybe final message for everyone to really examine the life everyone's living, and really, you know, there's no judgment. We're all doing our best, but just maybe look at your life, examine it, and really be honest with yourself. Is this the life that you really feel that you're meant to be living? Are you doing your best? Is this your maximum? And if it's not, you know, change it. Trust yourself. Make those changes. Take those harsh decisions. You know, take responsibility, and then just keep going forward. Let go of all the fears. Be courageous. Trust in yourself, and then see what happens. And then see what happens, because something amazing will happen, and I can guarantee that. It always does.
Yeah. And for me, I would want to say, kind of like a final thing, it's like, you know, don't hide.
Yeah.
Don't hide yourself, and don't hide all the things. Like, speak. You have to speak. If you're feeling awful, tell your story. I mean, there's so many avenues to do it. And you know, don't think, oh, people don't want to hear, you know, they don't want to hear it. It's like that because people don't like to hear negative things, but it really has an impact on people. So, and it will help you. You can't hold it in. If you keep holding in all of this stuff, it's just going to fester in there. You can't bury stuff. Yeah. So I would say, you know, choose the right avenue, choose the right people that are loving and compassionate and non-judgmental. I know that might be hard to find for some, but at least do that for yourself. Like, don't other people will do all of that for you. Don't judge, don't take their opinions. Don't judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Be a little easier on yourself. Forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. We all do, you know, things that we're not proud of sometimes. And it's like, that's part of the journey. But if you recognize that, you're already better. So, like, I've made so many mistakes, let me tell you. And it's like, now this is why I'm doing this. You know, the I'll say the boy, because that was like the wounded child that's terrified of speaking. I wasn't allowed to speak my voice. I wasn't allowed. I grew up that way, like in a harsh way. And it's like, for me to do, I'm saying this because it's like, that's what I finally found the courage to do this. Yeah. To speak the truth, to speak my truth. In my relationship, I finally had to end. I finally had to say, I'm not mad. This is not working for me anymore. And I'm not mad at you. And I had to forgive myself for choosing certain things and doing certain things. So I would say, be easy on yourself. Yeah. Open your heart to yourself. Your soul knows what's best for you, which means you know what's best for you. Clear the static as much as possible. Breathe. I keep hearing this whole time, tell people to breathe, breathe. Yeah. That's a cycle that we forget. Okay, we hold our breath because we're bracing against life, right? And just I don't know, trust. You were saying, like, I was, you know, for the first episode of the podcast, I was talking about unwavering faith. It was like the theme, the theme for this year. And it's really unwavering belief. Okay? That whatever it is that you're supposed to do and be, you're able to do it. You just have to figure out how to get there. And if you're having a hard time, you don't know how to get there, call on someone else. It's like, you know, I was drawn to Teja as one person. I have other people that I consider mentors and people that have helped me empower myself. And get that started. Like, if it's hard for you to do it yourself, because you're like, what do I do? Just make sure you're going to someone that's an enlightened person, that's more conscious, and get started there. And then you'll start to see yourself too, if you have to do it that way through advice and counsel and guidance from other people. But I would say at that point, then it's up to you. It's like you have to do it for yourself.
Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to add, because I felt like, you know, sometimes it's hard. I had nobody a long time ago to mentor, to learn from. It was just like, it was like I was in a vacuum. Like, there was nobody I would consider, like, you know, letting into to my world to help. And it took a long time. So I know what it feels like. So you got to reach out to people. It could be your trust. It could be your best friend. It doesn't have to be, some.
Yeah,
Doesn't have to
yeah.
be. Doesn't have to be us.
Yeah, and there's like books out there. There's so much information out there, free information available. There's so many free, valuable free videos, valuable free content that can help you. So at the end, people just need to make a choice and they need to be motivated, and then life will provide with the right things. That's how it works. But if you're just waiting at home on your sofa complaining, nothing's going to happen. So take self-responsibility. And, even if you're asking just your soul, you say, please guide me, things will start happening. It's that simple. Yeah.
I would say one more quick thing on that. It's like when you said going on, you go online and you find there's so much free content and stuff like that. It's like, say, some people have a really hard time meditating. They have a hard time getting out of their minds and really hearing their own voice. So I sound bowl frequencies, like meditations online, not like, it doesn't even have to be guided. It could just be sounds and vibration.
Yeah.
And it kind of changes your brain waves.
Absolutely.
So that you start to, it's automatic. You don't have to do anything. You just listen. So I thought I would add that as well. But thank you so much, Teja. I know I don't even know how much time because.
So welcome. I loved it. This was so much fun. Loved it.
I'm so glad. Very and I'm gonna put in all the notes for this when I finally release it, and I'll tell you the release day. I'll put in the notes of how people can find you and look into some of the work that you do. So if they are called to and something resonates with them, that they won't regret it. I can attest for that. You've helped literally thousands of people. So
we did a lot of work in the last 2 decades. Absolutely. More work to come.
Yes, I'm working with you again, and it's
it's exciting. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, and much love to you, Teja.
Same to you. Bye.